SDS to final year MA students. As I told you in the morning, I'll be dealing with one of the important text in your syllabus. That is Ayavadana by Girish Karnad. Girish Karnad, as you all know, is a well-known well-known playwright, theater artist, and also a movie. He was also a movie actor, and you all know that he was one of the Jnanapita recipient from Kannada literature, isn't it? And he also worked on Marathi years. At the same time, a very, very renowned theater personality. Okay, and a very, very renowned actor also to a certain extent. And you all know he has written some of the most famous plays called Tipu Sultan, Tughlaq, and also Ayavadana, Nagamandala. Nagamandala was also made a movie. Nagamandala became popular, and they made it as a movie. T.S. Nagabarna directed that movie, and Tughlaq was written and published in the year 1964, and Nagamandala in 1988. And Yayati is another important work by Karnad, which was published in the year 1961. 1961. No, Karnad was born in the year 1938. He was born in Dharwad. He belongs to Karnataka. No, he died on 10th of June 2019. 10th of June 2019. He was born in 1938. And Ayavadana was published in the year 1971. 1971. Very, very peak period. It was a peak period in his literary career, 1960s and 70s. He achieved so many milestones. He was so popular. He enacted in one of the movie called Mysuru Mallige. Mysuru Mallige. I don't know. Again, I think it's in Indian literature. You have a paper called Comparative Literature. Wait a minute. You can't even search, is it? I have to give you the detail. Huh? 1 minute. I think it's 1 second, 1 second. One minute. Okay, that's okay. Do one thing. I'm not finding that. I think I thought like it's in second semester. It's okay. No issues. What I'll do is I'll take up one more text. That is the Ancient Mariner. Ancient Mariner by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Hardcore 2.1. 2.1 hardcore 19th century English poetry. You have a poem called The Ancient Mariner by S.T. Coleridge. I don't think Ayavadana is prescribed for you in second semester, isn't it? So you have a poem called Ancient Mariner, hardcore 2.1, 19th century literature. Is that okay? Ancient Mariner, the poem Ancient Mariner by Coleridge. No, I don't think Ayavadana is prescribed for you. I thought like the text is there in your second syllabus. Second semester syllabus. That's okay. What I'll do is I'll take up another important text, that is Ancient Mariner uh, by S.T. Coleridge. Uh, S.T. Coleridge, Samuel Taylor Coleridge belongs to 19th century literature. He is also called as one of the pioneers of romantic literature. Like Wordsworth, along with Wordsworth, uh, S.T. Coleridge is known as one of the pioneers of romantic literature. Both S.T. Coleridge and Wordsworth worked together, and they also wrote a book called Lyrical Ballads, which was published in the year 1898. 1898, sorry, 1798, and there were some differences between S.T. Coleridge and Wordsworth. And Wordsworth came up with another book called Preface to Lyrical Ballads in 1799. And this S.T. Coleridge also wrote another book on poetry called Biographia Literaria, where he speaks about imagination and other aspects of fantasy, imagination, and other aspects of poetry. He was one among the founding pillar of romantic literature. And Ancient Mariner is a ballad. There are so many forms of literature. Sorry, so many forms of poetry. You have elegy, ode, sonnet, and you have ballad. And what do you mean by ballad? Ballad is a long poem that narrates, that tells a story. The ballad is a long poem that tells or narrates a story in a simple language. In a simple language. So, Ancient Mariner is a ballad. The first point that you have to write in your answer is Ancient Mariner is a ballad. So, the rhyme of Ancient Mariner is one of the important ballad in the history of English literature. The motto of the rhyme of Ancient Mariner is taken from the works of Thomas Burner. Thomas Burner, one of the important 16th century divine, is expressive of Coleridge's preoccupation with supernatural and nominational. He borrows a material or source that he borrows for this. The rhyme of Ancient Mariner is he has taken it from Thomas Burner's works. The poem has sufficient human interest. This particular poem, the rhyme of Ancient Mariner, this particular rhyme, ballad, the story that the poet wants to tell is about an ancient mariner, an ancient, he doesn't belong to the present age, he belongs to ancient times. Ancient times. We normally poets or the storytellers, story writers use the word ancient times or once upon a time when there is no concrete proof of the timing. When there is no concrete proof for the timing, then usually the poets or the writers use the word ancient or even sometimes once upon a time. So here, poet wants to tell a story of a mariner who belongs to ancient times. Okay, the poem has sufficient human interest. So what do you mean by sufficient human interest? A poem that raises the curiosity or the interest of the readers. There are works which keeps the interest of the readers steady. Like you won't feel like deviating. The reason is the entire poem deals with an important aspect that's something connected to the entire human race, mankind. Again, the story that the poet is trying to deal in this ballad is connected to entire mankind. Is connected to entire mankind. So it has got some. This has got a story sufficient to arise or to create curiosity in the minds of human beings, in the minds of readers. So the rhyme is written in imitation of old ballad. Much of its material is derived from travel literature. Much of the material is derived from travel literature. He has borrowed material from travel literature. At the same time, side by side with the supernatural elements, we can also see some realistic descriptions of nature. In this poem, it takes the readers to northern pole, Arctic region, where you find human the situation. It appears complete bad. Along with supernatural elements, side by side, the poet tries to give you the realistic picture with the vivid descriptions of nature, with the vivid descriptions of nature. The poem as an exciting story. The poem has an exciting story to tell, and the poem presents symbolically a view of the universe and man's relationship with the universe, with the creations of God. Okay, the poem systematically and also symbolically uh, presents presents the view of man's connection with nature, how man is connected with nature. For that, you see, there is a movie called Life of Pi, written by Jan Martel, one of the important Canadian writer who is still living. One of the important Canadian writer, Jan Martel, speaks about the same issue. There, in that book, The Life of Pi, it tries to connect man with universe. It tries to connect man's relationship with universe or even nature. Okay, so as I told you, the poem symbolically gives you the view or presents symbolically the view of universe or nature. At the same time, how man is connected with universe or nature. So the poem is a dramatization too of the theme of sin and retribution, in Christian terms. So, in Christianity, as I told you in the morning, while I was teaching Paradise Lost, there is something called, if you commit sin, there is always a chance for forgiveness. For forgiveness, there is always a chance for mercy, mercy and forgiveness in Christianity. So again, the poem, as I told you, is a dramatization of what? Of the theme of sin and retribution in Christian terms. In Christian terms, the poem, again, to begin with, the poem as an abrupt beginning. The poem as an abrupt beginning. You don't find a meaningful or a concrete beginning. It's an abrupt. The poem starts with an abrupt beginning. It has an abrupt beginning, plunging into the narration. Here, the mariner. Here, the poet. Who is the narrator? It is the mariner who is the narrator of the story. The mariner under Navika. In Kannada, we call mariner as Navika. So the mariner has a story to tell. So we can see at the very outset, in the beginning of the poem, the poet directly plunges into the action. And he makes his character, the mariner, the ancient mariner, to speak, to narrate a story. So this story has a message for entire mankind, something to deal with the theme of sin and retribution in Christian terms. You know, it has an abrupt beginning, plunging into the narration. As I told you, here Mariner has a strange story to tell. He has a strange story to tell. It's not a normal story. It appears that the mariner has undergone a particular incident in his life which has changed his lifestyle, which has changed his approach towards life, his approach towards life. So mariner has a strange story to tell to the readers, and it's not a normal story, it's a strange story to tell to the readers. So how does he convey his theme or his poetic ideas? The poet, through mariner. So you need a listener for a storyteller. If you are telling a story, you need listeners for that. Storytelling is an art, but to whom you have to tell a story? So you need an audience. You need an audience or listener. So who is the listener here in the poem, in this ballad? It is the wedding guest. So it appears that the poet, at the initial stage of the reading of the poem, you come to know that the poet S.T. Coleridge, through the character called Ancient Mariner, wants to delve with an important theme, called sin and retribution, particularly in Christian terms. And for that, he keeps a character. He wants a character. So who is that character? Ancient Mariner. So Ancient Mariner has to tell a story. So that story has got a message for entire mankind. So he has to tell a story, and there is a particular character, another character called a wedding guest. That wedding guest is all said to attend a wedding ceremony, a wedding function. He has to attend a wedding ceremony, and it appears that when you read the initial paragraph of the poem, you come to know that they are waiting for the favorable wind. They are waiting for the favorable wind to blow, because they have to sail across the river to another part of the world. So there, that wedding guest has to attend the marriage ceremony. And but it's again, as I told you, this ancient mariner has a strange story to tell, and he has a listener on the other side. Who is that listener? A wedding guest. He is in no mood to listen to the story. So that's another important factor. This wedding guest is not at all interested to listen to the story, because he is all interested to attend the marriage ceremony. He has no interest to listen to the story of the mariner, because his focus he is on attending the marriage ceremony, he has no time at all. But he has to tell the story. That is the punishment given by the God. He has to tell the story of the theme that is connected with the theme that deals with sin and retribution. So whomsoever he meets till his death, he has to narrate this story to those onlookers or people. Let it be strangers or whoever they are. So whomsoever he meets in his life, this mariner has to narrate this story. That is the punishment given by the God. Given by the God. Okay. So he has a strange story, and there he has a wedding guest who is in no mood to listen to the story. But the bright-eyed mariner is a spellbinder. You should use the same phrases in the exam. So that mariner was having what? Bright eyes. Bright eyes. Bright ಅಂದ್ರೆ light ಬರ್ತಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. Bright in the sense like his eyes were mesmerizing. His eyes had that mesmerizing effect. So whomsoever he met in his life, so he could easily enchant them or easily attract them towards him. He was a bright-eyed ancient mariner. At the same time, those bright eyes were acting like spellbinders. Spellbinders ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಮಂತ್ರಮುಗ್ಧರನ್ನಾಗಿ ಮಾಡೋದು. To catch someone's attention. At the same time, after catching someone's attention, so the I think can go ahead with the class. Am I visible now? Audible? Am I audible? ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಿದ್ಯಾ? Am I audible now? Dear students, am I audible? Okay, fine. I don't know what happened. Again, I lost the connection network. So, as I was telling you, again, when the narrator, that it's none other than the ancient mariner, he starts to narrate the story. So when he presents the picture of the ship, you can see the ship starts sailing across the sea. So he tries to revisit the incident which he has come across or experienced in his life. In his life, a particular incident which he has come across or experienced in life that he tries to revisit now. So, as he starts to narrate the story, we come to know that again there is a ship, a particular ship. That ship starts to sail, and while sailing, it crosses what? A kirk, Kirk. Kirk means church, and church, we all know, a religious institution, and the ship also crosses over what? A lighthouse. Lighthouse symbolizes what? Knowledge, symbolizes what? Moving towards towards coming out of ignorance, moving towards knowledge. Isn't it light? So at the very outset, in the beginning, we can see there is a ship. At the same time, the ship crosses over the sea, crosses over the church and also the lighthouse. And the ship is caught in the storm, and the ship, as soon as it starts sailing, it is caught in the storm, and it is driven towards, it's not smell blinder, spell, SPELL, spell blinder alla binder, BINDER. It's not smell binder, it's spellbinder. Spellbinder means to captivate someone's, to capitalize, to have capitalize, means to capitalize someone's mind, someone's attention through your eyes, through your talk. ಕೆಲವರು ಮಾತುಗಳಿಂದ ಸ್ಪೆಲ್ ಬೈಂಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಕೆಲವರು ಥ್ರೂ ಐಸ್ they capitalize on people, through talk they capitalize on people. It's not smell blinder, Vanajakshi Rai. It is spell, SPELLBINDER. So mariner's eyes were bright. He was a spell, again, he had that bright eyes. He was a spellbinder, and with those bright eyes, he could mesmerize people. So he had a wedding guest who was initially not interested to listen to his story. So later on, because of his spellbinding eyes, so he gets the wedding guest under his control. He could capitalize on him and he could control him. And he starts narrating the story. So while he starts narrating the story, we come across a ship which starts sailing. It crosses over what? Kirk, 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 a church which symbolizes what? A religious institution. At the same time, the ship also passes through the lighthouse. So ಶಿಪ್ಗಳು ಕಾಣಲಿ ಅಂತ, ಸಮುದ್ರ ತೀರ ಕಾಣಲಿ ಅಂತ ಲೈಟ್ ಹೌಸ್ಗಳು ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಸಮುದ್ರ ತೀರದಲ್ಲಿ. ಸೊ ಲೈಟ್ ಹೌಸ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಚರ್ಚ್ ಎರಡನ್ನೂ ದಾಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ಸಮುದ್ರದ ಕಡೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. This ship starts to sail, and what happens? So it is caught in the storm. Now it is caught in the storm, and it is forcibly driven towards the South Pole. South Pole, it is not Arctic, it is Antarctica. In South Pole, you find Antarctica, isn't it? So the ship is driven towards South Pole. What do you see in South Pole? South Pole consists of huge mass of what? Huge mass of ice. So though Antarctica is called as a continent, it is a huge mass of ice. You don't find landscape there. You don't find landscape. You can find only what? Huge mass of ice. So the ship passed the church, lighthouse. It was driven by the storm towards the South Pole. The mariner and his ship crew found themselves in a fearful land of ice. The mariner and his crew means his shipmates. Crew means people who what like ship crew andre who work in the ships. Normally you require people to work in the ships. Ships in those days used to move with coal energy. With coal energy. Coal. They used to use COAL, coal. Okay. You might have seen the movie Titanic. There you can see how the ship sails. Okay. So what happens here? The ship is caught in the storm and it is driven towards South Pole. So the ship and the mariner along with other few crew of ship reach what? Reach the land of ice. The land of ice. As I told you, Antarctica is covered with land of ice. So what do you see there? You can see the ice was here, the ice was there. So this is the passage again you find in the poem. The ice was here, the ice was there. The ice was all around. It cracked and growled and roared like noises in the swoon. So you can see how the noise when ship normally again breaks the ice and starts to sail. Okay, it has to break the ice, isn't it? Because if you are sailing in Antarctica, you won't get smooth sailing water. Okay, so it has to break the ice. While breaking the ice, it cracked, it made some noise, cracked and growled. You might have seen the movie Titanic, huh? There it hits the mountain which was beneath the sea in the movie Titanic. So it cracked and growled and roared like noises in a swoon. A great seabird called albatross came like a guest. So there the poet uses another character here. So when he again the ancient mariner, he says he speaks about ship, then the land of ice. Then he also says there he met along with his ship crew. He met a bird called albatross bird. Albatross anta ನೀವು ಯೂಟ್ಯೂಬ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೊಟ್ರೆ ಟೈಪ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ you will find the bird. You can see the bird, albatross. So this bird is very, very useful for the sailors. Normally, if you are lost in the sea while you are on the voyage, people use albatross bird because the bird albatross shows the sailors the direction, the proper direction. Because if you are lost in the sea, you can't find the proper direction to reach a particular landscape. So what happens here in the story? There comes a bird, albatross bird. Okay, a great seabird called albatross comes like a guest. Mariner, the host with his crossbow, kills it in hospitality. Inhospitably. It's like if you are a host, if somebody comes as a guest, you should treat them well. So what happens here when this bird comes, when it starts hovering, HOVERING, when it starts hovering over the ship, instead of treating the bird like a guest, what he does, he kills that bird with his bow. A ಬಿಲ್ಲಿನಿಂದ ಆ ಪಕ್ಷಿನ ಸಾಯಿಸ್ತಾನೆ. Okay. The mariner having killed a guest has to suffer what? Isolation. Because the mariner kills the bird for the sake of pride. He wanted to prove his sportsmanship. He wanted to show how accurate he is. How accurate he is in targeting his in hitting his target. Again, he uses the bow and kills the bird. He wanted to show his craftsmanship or sportsmanship to his crew members. So, without any reason, without any cause, without any proper notice or cause, without any proper intention, he kills the bird, and now he has to suffer what? Isolation. Isolation. So the mariner being killed, the guest. Who is the guest? Albatross, the bird albatross. Albatros. Albatros. So the mariner shipmates are insensitive people. The crew members and the shipmates were insensitive. They were not at all sensitive. They were not sensible enough. They had denounced his deed only because he had killed a bird that made the breeze to flow. They actually became accomplice in his sin. So these shipmates and crew members, instead of cursing the mariner for killing the bird without any proper reason, for the sake of sportsmanship, for the sake of what? Showing his skill. Okay, he has killed the bird called albatross. So these shipmates, instead of cursing him for his misdeed, what they do, they curse him only because they feel that this bird was blowing the breeze and was helping them. They don't curse him for his sin, the sin that he commits. What is that sin? He becomes the victim of major primary sin out of seven deadly sin. Which is that primary sin? Out of seven deadly sins, it is pride. So he becomes the victim. He becomes the victim of that primary sin out of seven deadly sins called pride. He wanted to show how skillful he is in killing that bird. So he was, again, even the shipmates, the crew members, again, becomes the party of that sin. They also accomplice what? In his sin. Killing the bird without any motive is an act of what? Is an act of pride. Killing the bird without any proper intention, reason, without any logical reason is an act of what? Pride, which is a sin in Christian theology, which is a sin in Christian theology. The avenging spirit followed the ship. The shipmates blamed their distress on the mariner's sinful act, and the sign of which they hung the dead albatross. They hung the dead albatross bird round his neck, a reminder that he is a sinner. So what happens there? They start to feel thirsty. All the shipmates, because there was no proper water, because whatever the water they find around them was not a sweet water. It was a salt water. They were not able to drink that salt water, and they were hungry also. There was no proper food for them to eat, and they all started to die one by one due to starvation. Due to starvation. They were hungry, they started to die one by one. The shipmates blamed their distress on the mariner's sinful act, and the sign of which they hung the bird, dead albatross bird, round his neck. The mariner was horrified to see the skeleton ship whose crew consisted of supernatural beings, the spectre woman and her death maid. So these are some supernatural terms or supernatural elements that Coleridge uses. So the mariner was able to see the skeleton of a ship, and also some dead mariners, and also some supernatural beings on a ship. Somewhere near to their ship, you could see a skeleton of the ship caught in between the ice, So it was like death, 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 and life and death situation for the crew. It was like death and life and death dice for the crew, significantly life and death and not exactly death. Again, one the ancient mariner. All the shipmates started to, all the other shipmates and including the crew started to die one by one. You could see the dead bodies. You could see the dead bodies all around him. God intentionally kills all the other shipmates, crew members, one by one, and allows only mariner to survive because he has to undergo the pain, the agony, the pain and agony throughout his life. If you provide, if you make someone, if you allow them, if you allow the mariner again to die, if the god allows mariner to die, he will find peace. He will find peace by attaining death, or by death we can attain what? Peace. So what happens here in the story? God doesn't allow mariner to die. He wants him to suffer in agony or pain, and he was destined to have agonizing experiences, so he was not allowed to die, even as his shipmates died one by one. Isolation was the right retribution for one who had killed a guest bird inhospitably. So isolation is the best reward, or the punishment could be given to someone who has killed a bird without any proper motive. So he was to be cut off from the fellowship and community. So he has to lead a life cut off from community or social life. Okay. So in addition to his sin, he contrasts the slimy creatures of the sea with the many men and beautiful who lay dead. So what happens now? He regains his self, means he starts to feel his the pain, and he is in the stage of mortification or redemption. So he repents for the mistake, and what happens? So there he sees the bodies of his shipmates or crew. At the same time, he also sees the creatures swimming under the water, the fishes, the other creatures, okay, slimy creatures of the sea. Slimy creatures of the sea were swimming with many men and beautiful who lay dead. He still had a feeling of pride when he thought of the human beings. So he starts to compare human beings with those creatures. He still had that pride of human beings. He thought that human beings are the crown of creation, so they can do whatever they want. So human beings consider themselves as crown of creation, crown of God's creation, which is a wrong notion, which is a wrong attitude or approach. So God treats each and every creation of him equally. So for God, man is not above all the other creatures. God has given right for every creature to lead a peaceful life, isn't it? So what happens there in the story? Besides loneliness, he had another agonizing experience now. He had to face the curse of the dead men. He has to face the curse of the dead men. He saw the God's creatures by the light of the moon, and now he finds them beautiful. He finds the creatures of God beautiful. The spell began to break with Mariner appreciating the beauty and joy, and feeling compassion. His killing of the bird was a thoughtless act. His killing of the bird was a thoughtless act, and a thoughtless act, drought which was passed of his punishment, again is replaced by refreshing rain. There was a drought. Now again he could see rain. It starts to rain. He could see some fresh sweet water, so he could drink that and he could survive. Because as soon as he starts appreciating the creation of God, he notices the change in the atmosphere, and there he sees it starts raining. He collects the sweet water, he drinks, okay, and at the same time The love and compassion, the love and compassion he felt for God's creatures put an end to creation or creatures, puts an end to what? Puts an end to the spell, and he was blessed. He was blessed with gentle sleep. He was blessed with gentle sleep. So there is a contrast between his isolation caused by his violation of a sacred code, and return to society made possible only when he repents. Only when he repents for his mistake. So he was allowed to come back to society only when he repents. The mariner has been moving from land to land, from one land to another land, and with the aid of strange power of speech, he has been teaching by his own example, love of God's love of God's creatures. The mariner's agony is realized in terms of a powerful human story, in terms of a powerful human story of sin and retribution. The redeemed man has a spiritual retribution. The redeemed, R-E-D-E-E-M-E-D, D-E-E-M-E-D. The redeemed man has a spiritual retribution. The redeemed man has a spiritual calling of teaching that the love of man and bird and beast is the best. The love of man and bird and beast is the best prayer one can offer to God. Is the best prayer one can offer to God. The mariner's tale leaves the wedding guest saddened but also wise. He becomes a wise man. Who? The wedding guest. Because there is a bottom line, there is a message, a mantra. What is that mantra? If you start loving the creation of God, that is enough. If you start respecting or adoring the creation of God, it is equivalent to worshipping God. You no need of going to Tirupati, no need of going to Kashi or Varanasi to worship Lord Shiva or Tirupati Tirumala. So, if you start worshipping, loving the God's creation, like dogs, cats, birds, you provide water, provide food, it is equivalent to worshipping God. It is equivalent to worshipping God. Sin and retribution is the major theme in this poem. Now, what is the message that you can find in this mariner song, mariner's tale? The message is: if you do a foolish deed, foolish or evil deed, or an evil deed, if you do a foolish or an evil deed, you are bound to find the results. You are bound to find, and it results comes hard searching you, isn't it? Hard searching you, it's like if you commit a crime, you are bound to face what? The punishment. You are bound to face what? The punishment. So you cannot escape that. Karma, if you believe in the karma theory, karma haunts. Karma hits you in the same life. No need of waiting for karma in the next life. ಸೊ ನೀವೇನಾದರೂ ತಪ್ಪು ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ತಪ್ಪಿಗೆ ಶಿಕ್ಷೆ ಇದೇ ಜನ್ಮದಲ್ಲಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ತಪ್ಪಿಗೆ ಪಶ್ಚಾತ್ತಾಪ ಪಟ್ಟರು ನಿಮಗೆ ಎಷ್ಟೋ ಮುಕ್ತಿ ಸಿಗುತ್ತೆ. ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಫೈಂಡ್ moksha. You can find moksha or salvation only through what? Only through retribution, only through redemption or repentance. So, employing the framework of a tale, S.T. Coleridge, by employing the framework of a tale of adventure, the poet Coleridge presents a spiritual journey. Okay, it takes the readers on a spiritual journey in the form of a tale. It takes the readers on a spiritual journey. So there is a social side to the mental side of spiritual adventure. The mariner and his companions commit an antisocial act, and become social outcasts and face utter loneliness. So, what happens in this poem, in this ballad? This particular mariner and his crew commit what? Commit antisocial act. For committing antisocial act, they were made to suffer what? Suffer from isolation. They were cut off, totally cut off from social gathering, from society. They were made to suffer with loneliness, with isolation in that vast landscape of ice. No, it was only the mariner who survives and comes back to the mainland. There he was punished. He was punished by God to narrate this story of God and his creatures and the importance of his creation to all the people whomsoever he meets in his entire life. With those key important points, I hope I was able to give you the justice. Sorry, I thought Ayavadana is prescribed for you in the same syllabus. I was under misconception. Okay, and sorry for that. And I hope you were able to understand Coleridge's true poetic intentions, poetic objectives, whatever the poetic objectives that he wants to achieve through this poem. I think he has been able to achieve that. He is able to achieve that, and I hope. Whatever the key points that he wants to convey through this poem is able to again you are able to means understand it. So thank you one and all. Thank you one and all. I'll meet you again tomorrow with a different text. I hope you'll enjoy the remaining part of the day. All the best. Meet you tomorrow with a different text. Thank you one and all. I request you to use some of the lines from the poem. In your answers, use some of the lines from your poem. Even quotations, textual quotations will fetch you good marks. Will fetch you good marks. Use some textual quotations or even some critical observations in the conclusion will also fetch you good marks. Is that fine? I hope you all understood the theme and the story. Okay, what exactly the poet wants to tell through Marina's tale. I hope you all understood it. If you have any doubt, you can post it in the comment box. Thank you one and all for your patience listening. Meet you again tomorrow then.
hear me now? Am I audible? Students, am I audible to you? Just send me the message. There, the inbox. If I am audible, I will continue. Students, am I audible? Yeah. Students, yesterday we had a long talk about two of the poems which I have discussed. Today I'm going to continue with the same thing, and one more thing I'm going to come. Charles Dickens' novel, Great Expectations. Welcome to the second class of mine today. I'm going to discuss where I have left off yesterday, and one of the poems, that is Ulysses, written by Alfred Tennyson. Ulysses is a beautiful poem, and this was first published in 1842 in the volumes of poems. Interesting, along with the other, like Lotus Eaters. Lotus Eaters. This poem is a dramatic monologue. I had a long conversation, as I had a long talk about dramatic monologue yesterday. What is a dramatic monologue? To recollect, where there is a listener, there is a speaker. Only the speaker speaks, only the listener listens without even uttering a word. A dramatic monologue, and it is full of lots of images are introduced to us. Ulysses. There's a beautiful language. Talk about this particular poem. Here, Ulysses is the person who speaks about various things, and he has a debate over his own life. Let me read out a few lines. It little profits that an idle king, but they still hearth among the barren crags, matched with an aged wife I met endure, unequal laws unto a savage race, that and sleep and feed and know not to me, not me. Here, he expresses his own feelings here, dear students. Ulysses. Ulysses, who is a Ulysses? Ulysses is a leader in the Greek expedition against Troy. Many of us know about what is the Trojan War is talking about. Let me explain to you. There is a war which countries, Troy and another country here, because of one particular woman named Helen, the Troy was destroyed, was set fire. In order to understand more about Ulysses, let me just brief down, let me give some introduction about Troy. Helen was considered to be one of the beautiful princesses of that particular land. Usually in those days, kings or the prince, they used to go the voyage to fight with the neighboring countries. So when the king goes out, Helen, that's what we say, there is a lady here, and she used to stay alone. Yeah, she used to stay alone in that particular country. Husband a war with the neighboring countries. In those days, to wage a war or to win a war is the ultimate thing in the life of a king. Ultimate thing in the life of a king. So when when she was staying alone in that particular place, and there was a messenger who comes from Troy in seeking the permission to meet Helen's wife. Helen tells the messenger that husband is not here and he will be coming back after 5 or 6 months. The messenger tells that he had the intention of conveying some message, very, very important message to him. And I cannot go back to my particular country unless and until I meet the king. So Helen thinks for a moment and she gives the shelter in her own house unless and until the king comes back home to meet. When the accommodation was given by Helen to him, and it is almost 5 to 6 months, Helen and this particular messenger, they fall in love with each other. And Helen elopes that messenger to another country named Troy. After 6 to 7 months, the king comes to that particular place. And he comes to know that Helen is no more and she eloped with the messenger. He goes along with all the people to Troy and he waits for 10 years. At the time, he could break down 4 walls of the Troy and he brings back Helen to that particular country. And Helen was considered to be the most precious woman in that country. That's what in Dr. Faustus tells when he wants to meet Helen, when Dr. Faustus wants to hug Helen, and he tells one verse, "Was is the face that launched 1,000 ships and burnt topless towers, William. Oh, Helen, make me immortal with thy kiss." To repeat, was this a face that launched 1,000 ships? That means Helen's husband, Helen's husband goes there in 1,000 ships, 10,000 men to track Troy to bring Helen back to a particular country. Was this the face that launched 1,000 ships and burnt topless towers of Helium? Oh, Helen, make me immortal with thy kiss. So, Ulysses was one of the prominent leaders in war. This is the background to which Ulysses is Alfred Tennyson is talking about. I'll stop here for a moment. Do you understand who is Ulysses? Why he is a Trojan warrior? That's what we are told. He is a Trojan warrior. And the name here is Ithaca. Ithaca gives the shelter to the messenger. From Ithaca, messenger along with Helen elopes to Troy. Troy was set to fire. Because of Helen, the whole country was set to fire. Burnt down to ashes. He is the prominent leader in Troy. He is the leader in the Greek expedition against Troy. Here is backed by Tennyson. And Ulysses comes back to from Trojan War to his own country. Trojan. And am I audible, students? Students, am I audible? Are you able to follow me? Just drop the message, please, there. If you're able to hear, I can continue. Am I audible? Yeah. Here, Ulysses, after just finishing the long 10 years of battle with Troy, he returns home. And as soon as he returns, he feels that he still wants to do lots of expeditions, lots of voyages. And his soul is always longing for the voyages. Soul is hungering for life of adventure. A man who always lots of adventures in his own life is finding life at home is a dull and profitless business. That's what he tells in the second or fourth line of the poem. He finds it as if barren cages. Here, it was a rocky island. It doesn't find any happiness at home. It doesn't find any happiness at home. And it just tells that it is a profitless business, particularly because he has a role to over. Wait a minute. Because he has the rule to rule over the people here. Whenever he comes home, he has to look after all the administration of the people. And he has to look into all the things that is taking place in the particular country. He doesn't want. He wants his life to be adventurous always. That's what it tells in the second or fourth line of the poem. Ulysses, it is a dull one. And it just tells a barbarian who cannot aspire higher things in life. It tells, being the king, he can only rule over the people, but he cannot aspire for higher things in life. Remember, he was there for 10 years, along with 10,000 men, along with 1,000 ships. He was doing lots of adventurous things along the shore of the Troy. After 10 years of battle, he comes back home and just he finds home or the country to be very dull. That's what it tells, profitless. Very profitless one. He doesn't find any satisfaction in his own way of doing in the country. That's what he tells. I want to do, my soul doesn't want to be sitting like an idol. I want to do lots of adventures. Do lots of adventures. Okay. The lead life on the animal level. He just tells in the fifth line of the poem, it tells that people lead the life like an animal. Like an animal. Working, what do they do? Working, eating, and storing their own corn or food and oil for future to come. That's what in the most of the modern day technology is. Why do we go to job? Why do we go to job? We go to job to earn money, to educate our children. What do? If we have the money, we just buy precious things to the house. We buy grains, rice, whatever is available in the provision store. We come and store it for the next day. And here Ulysses, just he thinks that the people in his own country, they are leading the life of an animal. Yeah, because of some network got disconnected. Now can you hear me? After network issue, I will war for 10 years. They lost 10,000 men with 1,000 ships. Very difficult. That's what it is. Your foot. We think about future, and here Ulysses thinks about his own way of adventures. And he just tells people are working, eating, and they store food and oil for next day. But the soul of Ulysses is sick with such task of ruling over the thankless race of subjects. Just he tells that he wants to do lots of adventures with lots of things because he was there for 10 years and hardly slept. His only purpose was to bring Helen back to Ithaca. And finally he did it. And that's what his soul is longing for. To do lots of adventurous things in his own life. And he comes there and wants to just move around. Let us see what happens. Remember, Ulysses was not an young man. He's quite older, maybe about 65 to 70. Besides this, age is telling him and not to go for the adventures. And some part of his soul tells him, if you go for adventures, who will look after the country? Who will look after the administrations of the country? And he just tells that my son will take care, and I will leave all the things with him and I will move. Let us see what it tells in 35 to 45. This poem is about 70 lines. Why I'm giving more emphasis about Ulysses is definitely there will be a question on this particular poem. poem. There will be a question on this particular poem prescribed for your study. I'm not telling about this Ulysses, I'm talking about Alfred Tennyson's. How many poems are prescribed for you? There are 3 to 4 poems are prescribed for your study. Just a minute. There are 3 to 4 poems. There are 2 poems, Lotus Eaters and Ulysses. And yesterday we have done with Robert Browning, that is Andrea Desalto, My Last Touches, The Last Ride Together, and Propise. Definitely there will be 1 or 2 questions about authors. That's why that is on first paper, a hardcore 19th century English poetry. That's what I'm giving more importance to, Lord Alfred Tennyson's poem. In line number 35 to 40, he says, besides this, age is telling him, and his own son is mature enough to look after the kingdom. And he just comes to the conclusion that is, he has got a mature son and he will look after the administration or his own kingdom. So he hands over the charge of the sum of the same to his son and decides to spend the rest in his brief life in search for happy adventures on seas, seeking for new worlds and experiences. And he just stops for a moment and thinks that he wants to hand over the charge to his son, and he wants to be very free man, free as the bird, free as the road, free as the wind, and to do lots of adventures. Let us see. He grows eloquent on the beauty of life to spend in this way, what his soul tells. Yes, goes out in search of his search. And again he tells, Ulysses says that his soul is restless because all through his life he has been a fighter and a traveler, meeting strange people. In all the parts of the world, doing great deeds on the battlefields. Remember, he is a great warrior. If he is not a great warrior, he would not have fought Trojan War. Because remember, Ulysses was the leader in that particular battle. Fight between 2 villages is very difficult to control. Fight between 2 countries. Remember, in those days, today we have all the powerful weapons. In those days, the sea route, they need to travel on the sea to reach. Maybe it took lots of years to reach that particular place. Maybe it took lots of months to reach. Apart from that, I want to tell briefly about that. I will cut short, and if you find the time, just read about Trojan War, how the war took place, and how many people were killed, and who were victorious, and the background to the story. If you understand the background of the story, the Trojan War, definitely you will be able to understand who is Ulysses. I was fascinated when I read about Ulysses. For thousand ships, 10 years, can a man leaving all the people, relatives, friends, children, all the people living behind and staying within the, staying just in the sea. When I talk about the sea, just a small country and it is surrounded with sea. These people are coming from faraway country and they have to stay there for many years to get in because of one lady, because of one girl named Helen. That's what he tells. That's what he tells. That's what he tells. Wait a minute. That's what he tells. He is a great warrior. He has met so many people. He has met so many people in his life. He has met so many people in his life. And he has come across so many battlefields. When he was very young, he was a great warrior. I was talking about Troy there, and it is surrounded with water. Students, remember, how can a person stay there just looking into the water for 10 years? Just waiting for the Troy door to be opened. He hardly slept. And finally, when the Troy's door was not opened properly, but still they just waited for 10 years and they planned something, they have executed, and they got inside Troy. And how they got inside it, just they made like a horse-like gift and they placed it at the gate of Troy. The people or the people who just safeguard Troy, they come to know about some horses kept wooden horse there, and they took horse inside the country. When they broke open the horse, and they inside the horse, there were many people who were hiding. They came out, they fought, they came out and opened the gates of Troy. People who were there in the ship came into Troy, and all the people were killed, and the Troy was set to fire and brought Ellen back to Ithaca. Waited for 10 years. So Ulysses continuously is talking about he was a brave warrior, fought for 10 years, and he has seen many battlefields in his life. He doesn't want that particular life to be wasted. Life to be wasted. Here it tells, further it tells, and after coming from the battlefield, and he feels really sick after seeing the people and his kingdom, he wants to give all the responsibilities to his son, and he wants to go out to acquire a new knowledge. Ulysses says that his soul is restless because all through his life he has been a fighter, he has been a traveler, he has met so many strange people in all the parts of the world doing great deeds in the battlefields. He can find rest only in traveling and widening his outlook on life. Ulysses says he finds only happiness and only in traveling and looking for outlooks of the world. That means seeking knowledge. Francis Bacon's, there is a short story, like there is a short story written by Francis Bacon of travel. You must read. Every travel will bring the knowledge to us. That's what he said. This is a short story. Please go through. It is available on the internet as well. Of travel, written by Francis Bacon. That's what Ulysses tells. He finds happiness when he travels, when he meets the people. He finds himself idle. That's what the first line of the poem tells. It little profits that an idle king. Next he tells, let me read out a few lines here. The more he traveled, the more he fought, the more he did, his heart yearned for further adventures. He just tells in line number 46 and 47, just 46 and 47, he tells that the more he travels, his heart always wanted to achieve something and wants to go for lots of adventures and lots of experiences. Life would be dull and beastly if in this old age he should stay at home doing nothing. Look at his conclusion here. After doing great things in the battlefield, if he stays there in the house without doing anything, he will become dull and beast. Dull and beast. That's what Alexander the Great used to say one thing. He used to tell that he loves adventures. He loves conquering the neighboring countries, neighboring villages. When he felt sick, and he just tells the disciples that traveling and adventures are more beautiful than sitting idle at home. Traveling and doing lots of adventures are more beautiful than sitting idle at home. So here, being old man, Ulysses just thinks that to be at home is like an idol. And it makes him dull in his own life. There is so much to be known and learned. Remember, students, learning and teaching has no end. You will never be old when you learn. I think what is block 4? I'm not teaching block 4 students, I'm teaching block 1 only. Block 1 only. I'm teaching block 1. Just I got the message there. Yeah, block 1. Yeah, block 4, hardcore paper. Yeah, block 4, hardcore paper. That is Alfred Tennyson's poem. Alfred Tennyson's poem. Students, do you have any questions to ask me so that I can continue further? Lotus Eaters and Ulysses. I'm talking about. Any questions? Is there a questions to ask? Please ask me so that I can continue further. Okay. Just Alexander, as I was talking about, he always wanted to do lots of adventures in his life. That's what Ulysses says. Ulysses says he doesn't want to sit like an idol at home. And there is so much to be known and learned, and there is little time at one's disposal in human life, that Ulysses feels that he should not waste his old age in remaining inactive at home. Even though he is an old man, look at his thinking. Don't sit home in an inactive manner. If human beings are, if people are not given any work, what they will do? They will become lazy and they will not achieve anything in their life. They will not achieve anything in their life. But Ulysses says that we should always learn how to do lots of expeditions in life and not to sit like an idle at home. You should be always on your toes to learn something to enrich your knowledge. That's what it tells. Knowledge is very vast and wide. Let us see. He has only few years more to live, and knowledge is vast that would not be possible to encompass its boundaries even if one were granted to live for 100 years. So he decides to set out on the quest of knowledge till the end of his life. There should be a reason, right? There should be a reason why he wants to do lots of expeditions in life. Being an old man, why he wants to do lots of expeditions in life. He just tells, even if you are given 100 years to live, 100 years to live, you will not be able to learn the knowledge which is set before us. That's what it tells in line number 49 to 48. And he tells that he has only few years to live, and knowledge is so vast that it would not be possible to encompass its boundaries. Even if you're given 100 years to live, you will not be able to learn the boundaries of the knowledge. That's what it tells. That's what one of the writers tells. The knowledge is like a vast ocean. Students, please remember. Students, please remember. The knowledge is like a vast ocean. What we know is a tiny drop of water from that vast ocean. That means there is so much to be learned. There is so much to be learned. That's what here tells. Even if you are granted 100 years to live, you will not be able to learn the entire knowledge left in the world. So Ulysses decides to set out on a quest of knowledge till the end of his life. Just the previous line, he was telling that he's going to live only for a few years till he dies, and he's going to learn. He's going to spend the entire life in learning new knowledges, new things. Then let us see what happens further. He then hands over the charge of his kingdom to his son Telemachus. Please remember the name Telemachus, 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 and his son, who is well versed in arts of war and peace and government. And he is also a man who knows how to do the administration. How to do the administration. He will be able to shape the destiny of the subjects by his own wisdom and capacity to guide them in peace and war. Ulysses just stops for a moment and thinks that his son Telemachus will be able to handle the pressure, not the pleasure, pressure from the king of the kingdom. He'll be able to handle both peace and war. He finally calls upon his subjects and commodes as are willing to throw the lot with them in the last voyage on the unknown seas. The ship stands ready to embark upon the new voyage. He calls all the people who are standing there to come to him, and he hands over the charges to his son Telemachus and waits for the ship to come. He waits for the ship to come to that shore there, so that he will get into the ship to do lots of adventures. To embark the knowledge, or embark the new voyage there, to get the new knowledge there. He just starts with his own voyage. The ship stands ready to embark upon the new voyage. It is beckoning them to go upon this glorious expedition, which promises strange adventures and experiences. Ulysses always is a great warrior who wants to know lots of things which are happening around him, and the particular voyage means journey on sea. Voyage, that's what is, born voyage. So the particular voyage welcomes him with lots of new expeditions and experiences. There is nothing more noble for an old man than to set out on the last adventures of his life. And Ulysses always thought that this would be the last one of the last adventures of his life. Why he thought that? Because he already told in the line number 35 or 36 or something, he has only few more years to live. He has only few more years to live. That's what he tells. This particular adventure should be very fruitful one, where he could learn something better than what he had experienced throughout his life. Let us see what happens further. How Lord Alfred Tennyson tries to conclude this poem. This particular poem is about the life story of Ulysses. Students, I tell you again, if you want to understand more about Ulysses, please read about Trojan War, how the war was fought between Ithaca and Troy. Then only you will be able to understand about these great personalities when you want to understand more about. So Ulysses asks his friends to follow him. He doesn't want to go alone. He doesn't want to go alone. He asks his friends to follow him. He also tells them that the voyage might lead them to those happy isles where the blessed warriors are supposed to live. Best warriors supposed to live. And he tells that you are going to be benefited, because to take a voyage, lonely voyage is quite difficult. Lonely voyage is quite difficult. Lonely voyage is quite difficult, where a group of men, if they just go for a voyage, they will be able to enjoy a lot, because sharing and caring is the most important part in life when people go for expeditions. When that's what, when we go for trekking, are we going alone? We are going with a group of people trekking. If something goes wrong, one can help each other. But here Ulysses tells and assures his friends that the particular particular voyage is supposed to give a lots of blessings, and it is going to be a blessing for the great warriors to live in. If they do not meet happy islands, their very effort to reach them was the reward in itself. If they are not able to reach a particular point, the reward is that they have come here to enjoy the voyages and to learn few aspects of life. It doesn't want to give up. It doesn't want to give up. The poem ends with Ulysses exhorting with his comfort, strive to seek, to find, and not to yield. Look at the last line of the poem. Just come out to strive, to seek, to find, not to yield. That means we are going to find, to seek, and not to come back, not to yield. It is a dramatic monologue where we are not given lots of information about the friends. We are given only one word, that is about only one or two sentences spoken to us about his son Telemachus, where he's going to hand over the charges before he goes for the voyage. Before he goes for the voyage. No other characters are speaking to each other. We are given information about the friends. He just tells the friends to just come and start the voyage. Ulysses is a dramatic monologue. In this poem, the Ulysses is a Greek hero who expresses his ideas and thoughts about his life, which are largely the poet's own. A poet is just telling about his own experiences. Even when we compare Ulysses, when Tennyson had lots of, not them talking about his adventures and lots of ups and downs in his life. Same thing here. And what are the things that you need to concentrate? Why I have given more emphasis about this particular poem, Ulysses is, and it is one of the prominent monologues of Lord Alfred Tennyson. And what are the probable questions that may be asked in the exam? And what is the characterization of the poem? How Lord Alfred Tennyson characterizes Ulysses. Next question, probably comment on the title of that particular poem. Write the comment on the poem, title of the poem, Ulysses. Maybe you may be asked, what are the themes of adventures that Lord Alfred Tennyson trying to bring out in the poem prescribed for your study? Lotus Eaters and Ulysses. Any questions to ask, students? Long discussion about one particular poem, Ulysses. Students, any questions to ask, please ask me. Yeah, am I audible, students? Yeah. Sorry, because of network issue, it got disconnected. So I was talking about the probable questions which you need to concentrate about. One is compare and contrast Tennyson's poem Ulysses and Lotus Eaters. And another question is comment on the title of the poem Ulysses. If individual questions, if they ask, and what are the themes that Ulysses trying to tell us? And these are the few things where you need to concentrate. And another thing is that actually I wanted to do one more novel, Great Expectations, written by Charles Dickens. Is also one of the beautiful, which I enjoyed a lot. Is a novel. Since I did not have the time, since I had to do with lots of explanations with Ulysses poem, definitely I'll do it tomorrow. I'm doing with only block 4, and tomorrow I'll try to finish that Great Expectations. And students, don't be afraid that questions will be very tough, where it is we will not be, I'm not able to understand, or I will not be able to answer the questions. Please don't have such a notion about the question papers and the answers. What I suggest as a teacher is, as an assistant professor of the university is, if you prepare well, you will end up well. If you don't prepare well, you will lose. Try and read and understand. It's not only reading something, but you need to understand the concept. Since morning, since yesterday, you have been attending lots of classes, 5 classes in a day, almost 10 classes are over. And how many of you have understood the clear content which are explained by our professors? A good student takes down important points while a lecturer delivers a lecture. If you would have taken the important points, that would have been helpful for your examination to face. Students, I tell you once again, to read and learn something by heart from one of the guides available in the market will not fetch you good marks. Don't read for the sake of examination point of view. Literature should be read and enjoyed. Read for the sake of enjoyment. Keep it in your mind. Maybe you need to understand, and you need to keep few points in your mind about the characters, the sequences, the years, the sequences, and the incidents in your mind. But everything, you have to be very creative. If you are a very creative person, it will fetch you good marks. Thank you, students. Do you have any questions to ask? Please ask me. Otherwise, we'll wind up the class. Thank you, students.